Today is Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, and today is National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day, which feels like somebody looked at a strawberry and said, "You know what this needs? A vegetable." And somehow it worked. History is full of combinations that probably shouldn't have worked but did. A duck with an explosive temper, a racehorse that became a legend, a technology that connected millions of people before most of them understood what it was. Welcome to Wait, That's Random, This Day in History. I'm C.L. Burns, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and your guide through the tiny historical details that somehow make humanity look even stranger. On June 9th, 1934, Donald Duck made his first appearance in the animated short, The Wise Little Hen. At the time, nobody knew they were meeting one of the most recognizable characters in entertainment history. And that's one of the interesting things about cultural icons. They almost never arrive looking like icons. They arrive looking like an experiment. Donald wasn't even the star of the cartoon. That role belonged to the hen. Donald and another character, Peter Pig, were mostly there to avoid work. When the hen asked for help planting corn, both characters suddenly developed a very convenient stomachache. The audience response, however, was immediate. People loved Donald, partly because he was different. Mickey Mouse was optimistic, polite, reliable. Donald was frustrated, impatient, loud, lost his temper constantly. He felt more human. Animators quickly realized they had something special. Over the next few years, Donald appeared in more cartoons, comic books, newspaper strips, toys, radio programs, and eventually television. By the 1940s, he was appearing in more films than Mickey. One detail I always enjoy is that Donald's famous voice came from voice actor Clarence Nash, who developed the sound by experimenting with unusual vocal techniques that many people assumed would be impossible to sustain professionally. He ended up performing Donald for nearly 50 years. Today, more than 90 years later, people still recognize Donald Duck almost instantly. Not bad for a character whose first big contribution was pretending to have a stomachache. And speaking of things that captured people's attention far beyond what anyone expected, June 9th also gave us one of the greatest performances in sports history. On June 9th, 1973, Secretariat won the Belmont Stakes and became the first Triple Crown winner in 25 years. Even people who don't follow horse racing often know the name. And the reason is simple. Secretariat didn't just win, he dominated. The Belmont Stakes is a 1.5-mile race. It's long, demanding, and often exhausting for both horse and jockey. Yet what happened that day still sounds exaggerated when described. Secretariat finished 31 lengths ahead of the second-place horse. 31 lengths. Broadcasters struggled to process what they were seeing. The crowd began reacting before the race was even over because the gap kept growing. Track announcer Chick Anderson delivered one of the most famous calls in sports history. Secretariat is widening now. He is moving like a tremendous machine. The final time remains a Belmont Stakes record more than 50 years later. And that's where the story becomes fascinating. Records usually fall. Technology improves. Training improves. Nutrition improves. Yet Secretariat's Belmont performance still stands alone. Veterinarians later discovered another remarkable detail. His heart was estimated to be significantly larger than that of a typical thoroughbred. Whether that fully explains his dominance remains debated, but it certainly added another layer to the legend. Sports produce great champions all the time. Very few become myths. Secretariat somehow crossed that line. And then there are inventions that don't seem legendary at first because nobody yet understands how much they're about to change. On June 9th, 1993, early public demonstrations of web browsers began attracting wider attention. Now that sentence sounds incredibly ordinary today because you're currently using technology built on the same foundation. But in 1993, the World Wide Web was still a strange curiosity to most people. The internet already existed, Universities used it. Researchers used it. Government agencies used it. But the web, the thing most people think of when they think of the internet, was still finding its audience. The browser changed everything. Instead of memorizing commands, people could click. Instead of navigating technical systems, they could follow links. Instead of needing specialized knowledge, ordinary people could explore. One newspaper writer at the time described it as opening doors into information that previously felt hidden behind walls. And what I enjoy about this story is how difficult it was for people to predict where it would lead. Some thought it would be useful for academics. Others thought it might help businesses. Very few imagined social media, streaming video, online shopping, video calls, podcasts, or billions of people carrying internet-connected computers in their pockets. The web looks small. History often does. Looking backward, transformations appear obvious. Looking forward, they're much harder to recognize. The people attending those early demonstrations weren't witnessing the modern internet. They were seeing the first few pages of a very long story. After spending today's episode around a cartoon character, a racehorse, and a technology that all achieved extraordinary staying power, it feels appropriate to end with someone whose career has shown a similar kind of resilience. Born on June 9, 1961 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Michael J. Fox became one of the most recognizable characters of the 1980s and 1990s. His path wasn't especially easy at first. Fox was smaller than many casting directors expected for leading roles, and early in his career he was often overlooked. Eventually, he landed a role on Family Ties, where his portrayal of Alex P. Keaton turned him into a star. Then came Back to the Future. Marty McFly quickly became one of the most beloved movie characters of the decade. What made Fox stand out was his energy. He always seemed to be moving, thinking, reacting, keeping pace with whatever chaos surrounded him. In 1991, at just 29 years old, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Many people assumed his career would effectively end. Instead, he gradually became one of the most prominent advocates for Parkinson's research and awareness. His foundation has helped raise hundreds of millions of dollars for research efforts. What's remarkable isn't simply that people remember his films. It's that he managed to redefine what his public legacy would be. Not every actor gets to do that. History sometimes preserves things for reasons that nobody can predict. A cartoon side character became a global icon. A horse runs a race that people still talk about half a century later. A technology demonstration quietly changes the way humans communicate. Nobody involved could fully see the future from where they stood. They were simply participating in the present. Anyway, that's where June 9th ended up taking me. And before I go, here's today's oddly appropriate quote. Prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. Niels Bohr. If you'd like to explore more of my work, books, narration, or ongoing historical curiosity, you can find it all at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I'm glad you were here for this one. I'll see you tomorrow.